Well, let's discuss the latest then with our international affairs editor, Kethevane Gorjestani, who's with me. Kethevane, why is this rebel offensive happening now?
Well, clearly, this is not something that was planned in the last few days. It's something that has been in the works for a while. But it seems that these militants just took a look about the broader geopolitical situation in the world, basically, and thought this is our moment because the regime of Bashar al-Assad is, in a way, weakened because its backers are either weakened or distracted by other things. And there are really three main entities that are helping Bashar al-Assad or were helping Bashar al-Assad up to now. One is Hezbollah. And as we heard in the report, Hezbollah had long been sending fighters and helping Bashar al-Assad's forces in Syria. Of course, Hezbollah is weakened and distracted, and it's probably no coincidence that this offensive in Syria took place right after that ceasefire agreement between Hezbollah and Israel. Israel also, in the past year or so, has been attacking Iran-backed groups in Syria, and those Iran-backed groups, like Hezbollah, but others as well, were also helping Syrian forces in the country really stay put and hold off some of these rebel groups. And so you've seen that Iran and its proxies in Syria have also been weakened by Israel over the past year. And finally, there is Russia, which is a huge backer of Bashar al-Assad. Russia, of course, distracted by its own war on Ukraine for the past few years. And so this gives you a picture, really, of how maybe they found that this was the right moment, that Bashar al-Assad and his forces were maybe, A, not expecting such a large offensive, and B, maybe not as ready. And you're seeing those backers now coming back into the forefront. The foreign minister of Iran was in Syria on Sunday saying that Iran would bring its support to help Bashar al-Assad, and you're seeing the Russians step up that aerial help from that aerial base and continuing those strikes on those rebel-held strongholds alongside the Syrian army.
And what about the rebels themselves? I mean, who exactly are they?
Well, there is a sort of broad coalition of various groups that range from Islamists to other groups that in the past were actually part of the uprising against Bashar al-Assad. But really the leadership of this broad coalition is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS. It's an Islamist militant group that has a long story within Syria, but it was actually named differently in the past. So basically it was set up as Jabhat al-Nusra back in 2011. It was an affiliate of al-Qaeda, and it was seen as one of the most efficient in the fight against Bashar al-Assad's regime. And then in 2016, the group's leader decided to dissolve Jabhat al-Nusra and set up a new organization that later was joined and merged with other Islamist groups and became what we know now as HTS, which is designated as a terrorist group by the likes of the United States, for example, or Turkey. But they are not the only ones in this specific offensive. You have elements of what was known as the Free Syrian Army that is backed by the Turkish government that are also operating. So groups that don't necessarily have the same ideology, but have the same enemy, which is Bashar al-Assad. And you add to that, which is separate, you add to that the Kurdish forces that are operating in the eastern part of Syria that are not only opposed to Bashar al-Assad, but also opposed to some in this coalition of Islamist groups. So it gives you really the sign of how complicated things are in Syria at the moment, and why for the international community, we've seen some statements from the Americans, from the French, saying that they're watching this closely and that they are calling for de-escalation, but they're not really taking sides, because the sides that you have are, on one hand, an Islamist group that is considered a terrorist group, and on the other hand, you have the regime of Bashar al-Assad. So the international community, at least the Western part, is simply right now looking at it, simply trying to avoid potentially yet another huge conflict in the Middle East.